Every single day, millions of people create content. They're posting it, they get views, and sometimes they get a lot of views. And then nothing. Nobody remembers them, nobody comes back to them, nobody buys from them. And they have absolutely no idea as to why. Now, for years, I thought that attention was something that you had to chase. And then 1 week recently completely changed how I see everything. Now, I'm gonna tell you 3 things right now that are going to sound completely wrong, completely backwards. The first one is that getting more views can actually destroy your personal brand if done wrong. The second is that posting more often actually makes you less memorable. And 3, the least strategic thing that you can do right now is actually copy what's working for everyone else. Now, all 3 of these sound completely backwards, I know, but by the end of this video, I promise you that you won't just believe in them, you will never be able to unsee them. Because what I'm about to break down is the difference between attention that builds something real and attention that just disappears the second that the algorithm stops pushing you. And once you understand this distinction, literally everything about how you create changes, and it changes for the better. Now, about a month ago, I posted 2 videos back to back, and I just want to paint you a picture of what happened with this first video so that this point really lands. Now, about 2 weeks ago, I woke up and I saw a news alert in my feed about a YouTube algorithm update. I've seen this kind of thing before several times. I knew that those are the type of videos that get views. So in a moment of weakness, I sat down and I hit record, and I recorded it in like an hour. I did no deep thinking, no storytelling, no personal angle, just the facts. But that video did decent. It got like over 20,000 views in a couple hours or days. Now, we'll get back to that video in just a second. Now, let me tell you about a second video that I posted shortly after that. This video is one that I really cared about. I spent real time on it, like days. The video was a deep dive on how to become a masterful storyteller on YouTube. It was everything that I genuinely believe about craft, about filmmaking, editing, storytelling, about why the videos that move people are built differently than the ones that just inform. I wrote and rewrote that script. I thought about it deeply. I spent hours on that edit. I tried to make something that I was really and genuinely proud of. And that video, that got only 1,000 views. Man, it was a bad performing video. And I remember sitting there looking at these 2 videos, these 2 numbers side by side, and feeling this like, almost like frustration that I didn't fully understand yet. Because every single piece of YouTube advice, every data-driven, algorithm-optimized piece of content strategy advice out there, it would look at those numbers and it would probably say the same thing. Double down on the algorithm video, that first one, because that's your winner. But that's what the data would say. But here's what the YouTube data didn't show. That storytelling video, the one with 1,000 views, it converted over 3 times the revenue of the one with over 20,000 views. 3 times from a 20th of the audience. Now, I sat with that for a few days because it literally broke something that I thought I understood. Because of it, I started asking one simple question. Why? And in that, what I realized is that those 20,000 plus people who watched the algorithm update video, I was just the vehicle for them. I was a delivery mechanism for information they needed. The second that video was over, they were gone. They had no reason to subscribe to me, no reason to trust me, no reason to come back to me. I was like a news anchor, not a person. But that video I made with only 1,000 views, well, those 1,000 people who watched the storytelling video, they saw me. They connected with something real. They felt that this person, me, understands something that they care deeply about as much as I do. And listen, the reason I'm telling you this story is because this is the most important thing I'm gonna say in this entire video, so listen up. Most people building a personal brand right now are chasing the first number and wondering why nothing converts. The problem isn't your views. The problem is what your views are made of. There's a shift that I want to make in how you think about attention, because most people define attention as views, as reach, as impressions, as numbers, vanity metrics. But that's not attention. That's just traffic. And traffic and attention are not the same thing. Traffic is 20,000 plus people watching you explain something and then forgetting that you exist by the time they open a new tab or the next video. But real attention is the 100 people, the 1,000 people watching you and feeling like you understand them better than anyone else in their space. They're the ones that are coming back to you and eventually buying from you. See, the difference between traffic and real attention it really comes down to one thing: depth. And what a lot of people miss about depth, it's not consistency. It's not production quality even. It's not, honestly, it's not even your topic. In my opinion, depth is a downstream from craft, from story, and the willingness to be unapologetically yourself on camera. Most people in the content space right now, they're outsourcing their uniqueness to the algorithm, to AI. They're looking left, right, and just copying what works for other people kind of blindly. They're just chasing whatever format got 1 million views last week. I get it, I've been there. And every time they do that, they get a little bit more generic. They become a little bit more like that fish who swims in a sea of sameness, a little bit more replaceable, a little bit more invisible. The creators who build real attention, the ones whose audiences would follow them anywhere, honestly, they're just straight up doing the opposite. They're going further into themselves. They're leaning harder into that specific perspective that they have, their specific aesthetic, their specific way of seeing the world. Because here's the truth about the creator economy in 2026 and honestly onward. And this sucks, but information has no value anymore. You can get any information from any AI in seconds. Well, people are actually paying for it. People are actually connecting with it's what they've always paid for and connected with. It's a human being that they trust. It's a perspective that they can believe in. A person whose lens on the world makes them feel less alone in it. And the only way to build that is with depth, which means craft, which means story, which means you. Now I want to move on to that second claim that I made at the start of this video, that posting more actually can make you less memorable. Now, there's a lot of opinions, and opinions are just that. So what I want to do is I want to do this with science. I think that when you understand what's actually happening in somebody's brain when they consume too much of your content or just too much of you, you'll never really think about your posting frequency the same way again. Now, there's a psychological principle called the mere exposure effect. It was discovered by a psychologist named Robert, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his last name, and it was in like 1968 or something. It doesn't matter. The basic finding of this was that people generally like things more after they've been exposed to them. So basically, familiarity creates preference, and exposure creates liking. So more exposure to something creates more likeness to it, which on the surface, it sounds like a reason to post more, right? But here's what almost nobody actually talks about when it comes to the mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect follows what researchers call an introverted U. Essentially, the liking of something goes up, but only to a certain point. And then past that peak or that certain point, it goes back down. So basically, the more exposure after the saturation point, the more the liking actually falls and the more you dislike something. And the research gets really, really specific when it comes to things like music. I think this is a good example that we can all understand because we've probably all been through this. There was a study that was published in, I want to say like 2000, early 2000s, and they tested this exact phenomenon that I'm talking about in terms of music. So they played songs for people who were actively, intentionally listening, just like somebody might do when they genuinely watch your content. And what these researchers found, that liking peaked at around 8 exposures. And then at 32 exposures, it had fallen all the way back down to baseline. Okay, so if that didn't make sense, think about this. Think about your favorite song. Think about the first time you heard it. You're probably like, ooh, that's a sick beat. Like, you probably loved the song. So you downloaded it, you added it to your playlist, and you played it again and again while you work out, while you work, while you drive. And then one day you put that song on and it just lost that oomph. It lost something that's hard to articulate. And to a point where if someone else put it on in the car, you might have felt a slight flicker of something that you couldn't quite name or articulate, maybe like a mild irritation, right? The beginning of resentment. You didn't choose to feel that. Your brain just hit a psychological saturation point. And the music industry has a term for this. It's called radio burnout. When a song gets overplayed, stations actually start receiving listener complaints. The exact song that was driving traffic and tune-ins to a radio station 3 weeks earlier is now causing people to switch channels and not listen to that station. And guess what, guys? Psychology is psychology across all mediums. The same thing happens with content creators. And I call this video fatigue. See, when you post 5 times a week or even 3 times a week, which I've tried doing several times, without any real intention behind each one, you're training your audience to treat you like background noise. You're everywhere, so you're nowhere. You are creating this mere exposure effect where soon people will enjoy your content, and then they'll get sick and tired of you really fast if there's too much of you. It's psychology. And I have proof of this personally. I'm not gonna name names here, but the way I found out about this and actually what kind of sparked me doing more research on this was by accident. There was a creator who I follow, I'm subscribed to, and I love his content. He's awesome. But he started posting videos literally 3 to 5 times a week. And I realized that I was actually kind of getting annoyed by his videos, even though I loved his content. And I wasn't watching all of his videos either. I was becoming very selective with what I decided to watch from him. Where in the past, when he was posting less, I watched everything. And that is because I went through this mere exposure psychological effect. So when someone knows a new video from you is a relatively rare event, when it doesn't happen every single day, the moment a video does appear in their feed, they notice it. They feel something, and then they click on it. Scarcity doesn't just create demand in markets, it creates it within attention. All right, now I want to talk about the thing that I believe matters the most. And it's the thing that almost nobody in this space ever says out loud. Your creativity, I really believe it's your only real moat. Your creativity, the specific way you see things that other people in your space don't. The specific way you express an idea that nobody else would express it. That's what makes you irreplaceable. And in a world where AI can generate content, write scripts, produce thumbnails, literally all within seconds or minutes, well, your creativity is the only thing that genuinely cannot be replicated. And a lot of creators I see go wrong here because they look for creative inspiration within their space. They're trying to be creative, but they're looking in the wrong place. When someone in the YouTube growth space wants to design a thumbnail, where do they go? They go to YouTube. They look at what's performing. They reverse engineer the visual language of what's already working. Listen, I've done this a ton. People do it because oftentimes it works. But what's happening is they essentially copy the template of whoever is winning that week. And that's why every thumbnail in every niche starts to look exactly the same. So if you value the idea or concept of standing out, what I've begun doing on this channel is something I've been doing on another channel of mine for a long time. I do the opposite. I'm honestly skeptical to say this because I don't want it to become a saturated thing, but I think creativity is scalable endlessly. What I do is I go to Pinterest. Pinterest is an amazing place where designers, photographers, art directors, visual thinkers, like you name it, they post work that has nothing to do with YouTube or any sort of algorithms or anything. It's fully aesthetic based. It is aesthetic concepts. It's compositions. It's visual ideas that have never been touched by any algorithm before. I find something that just stops me, something unexpected, something visually striking, something I haven't seen before. And then I ask, how can I translate this into a thumbnail? In fact, I'll give you guys a specific example. One of my videos, it got 60,000 views in less than 2 weeks. The thumbnail concept didn't exist anywhere on YouTube. And I know because I aggressively researched and tried finding it before I made it. And it came from a single Pinterest post that I found, scrolling for maybe like 10 minutes. I saw a visual idea that just really struck me. And I understood the emotional language behind it in the sense that if I had that same emotion or feeling, others would too. So I took that and I made it mine. And the result that had a very high click-through rate and it was literally impossible to scroll past because it didn't look like anything else around it. It stood out, not because it was louder, but because it was just completely different. This is something I like to call, I'm still trying to workshop names. I'm just calling it the Pinterest method for now, but it's really the principle behind it. It's much bigger than just Pinterest. The principle is really to go where your competitors are not going or they're not looking for creative inspiration. Pull from outside your space, bring visual and narrative references in from films, from fashion, from architecture, from advertising from the 1960s, right? From documentary photography, from anything that has nothing to do with YouTube. And every single example I just gave you are literally examples where I pull creativity references from. Your audience has seen every thumbnail style in your niche 1,000 times. I can almost guarantee it. They've developed a kind of like visual immunity to it at this point. So the moment that something genuinely is different and it appears in their feed, the brain, it's gonna stop. And that stop is the beginning of real attention. Now, I wanna say one more thing about craft because I know some people hear that word and they think like, ooh, expensive camera gear or really high production edit or high production budget. That's not what I mean. My lens or perspective on craft is intentionality. It's simply caring about what's in frame, the frame. Even if you're shooting on an iPhone, it's thinking about pacing, voice fluctuation. It's writing a hook that pulls somebody in rather than just introducing your topic based on psychological principles or storytelling frameworks. It's making an edit feel like it has a rhythm, like it was built by someone who just cared. I mean, look at a creator like Matt Gray. He's fantastic. His videos convert at an extraordinary rate, if not by view count, definitely by revenue. And it's not because he's the guy who's like crushing it the hardest or has the best information in the space. It's because everything he makes feels extremely considered. The composition, the colors that he uses, the way his ideas land, you can feel that intentionality and care that he has in the work that he posts. And that care is the craft. And the craft is what creates depth. And the depth is what creates real attention.
All right, real quick, sorry to interrupt this video, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I just launched something called the YouTube Blueprint Pro. It's a private community where I teach all of the systems and frameworks that I use to personally grow and also make money from all of my YouTube channels and my client YouTube channels. Plus every tool, template, and AI workflow that I personally use in my own business and my own channels. Now listen, I'm trying to go super hard to win something called the School Games. It's a contest that ends on June 28th. So basically I need to get as many members into this community as possible before then. So I've decided to do something absolutely crazy, and I'm never gonna offer this again. For the first 100 founding members who join the YouTube Blueprint Pro, I'm going to personally get on a one-to-one YouTube coaching strategy call with you and figure out and dial in your exact strategy going forward, plus your monetization strategy. Literally one-to-one, you and me, for a whole hour as a bonus. That's not even including everything that's inside the YouTube Blueprint Pro. Now, we launched less than 24 hours ago and we already have 23 members inside, which is amazing. So after we hit 100 members, those coaching calls that you could have as a bonus for free, which I charge a lot of money for to clients typically, they're gonna be gone forever. I highly recommend you go and join right now. But listen, if you don't have the means or it's not a good time for you to invest in something like this, that's totally fine. I also have another option for you. It's completely free and it's basically like the YouTube Blueprint Pro. It's basically like its little brother. So if you guys wanna help me win School Games and you need help to win on YouTube and in your business, then the link is in the description below. It would mean the world to me if you joined, and also it would be crazy valuable to you as well. Anyways, let's get back to the video.
All right, so now what I wanna do is just kind of pull all this together, because what I wanna do is really give you something concrete to be able to walk away with after this video. Real attention, the kind that builds a personal brand that people are really genuinely loyal to, the kind that converts into real revenue, the kind that makes people just tell their friends about you, as I said earlier, without them having to be asked. It requires 3 things simultaneously. Please take notes of this. Now, the first thing is it requires a perspective that is genuinely and actually yours, not information. Everyone has information now. Information's free and getting freer by the day. You need to lean into what you have that nobody else has in the specific lens that you bring to your subject. And that specific lens, that perspective, it should be shaped by your failures, by your wins, your weird obsessions, your background, your specific combination of experiences that has never existed in exactly this form before, the way it does within you. My background was growing up as an entrepreneur and then getting into the filmmaking space and then editing professionally for media houses like documentary editing. And through it all, having an obsession with business and systems and all that. Most people in my space don't have that. And so when I talk about storytelling or craft or what makes a video actually move somebody, I see it differently than they do. That lens is the whole point, not the information. The lens, the perspective, and you have a lens, a perspective too. The job isn't to find it, it's to lean into one you already have, harder and more unapologetically than you've done or been willing to go so far. Now, the second thing that you need is craft that signals that you actually care. I'm sorry if this is you, but it drives me nuts. It straight up makes me a little irritated when I see people try and produce lazy content and come and join into one of my communities and tell me that YouTube doesn't work for them, they're shadow banned, or they don't understand why they can't grow. Really? I said this already, but it's worth saying it again differently. Craft is not about budget. It is about whether the viewer can feel in the first 10 seconds of your video, ideally, that there is a human being behind this video who genuinely cares, because that feeling is rarer than you think. Most content gives off the complete opposite signal. Most content gives off the signal of, hey, I made this because I had to post today, or because there's a new update I need to cover. And audiences feel that. They can't always name it or articulate it well, but trust me, they feel it. Versus when something's made with genuine and real craft, with real care, it feels different. And that difference is the fundamental foundation of trust. The third thing that you need is creative differentiation. Simply put, the willingness to go where nobody else is looking. Stop using your competitors as your creative reference points for every piece of content. They're all looking at each other. Go somewhere else entirely and then bring what you find back into your work. It's a riskier strategic play, yes, But I would argue that long-term, it'll do exponentially better, because rather than following outliers, it increases your odds of becoming one, because that is what makes you impossible to stop engaging with, to scroll past. The original thing, the unexpected thing, the thing that makes someone stop and think, man, I've never seen that before. That's where you want to lean into. Now I want to end this with something that I think about genuinely way too much. I think a lot of us lose that. We start making content for the algorithm instead of making it because we're genuinely compelled to say something. We start looking sideways at other creators, and instead of going deeper into whatever it is that only we can see, we start chasing the number instead of building the connections. Honestly, painful irony is that the number follows the connection, not the other way around. Even when you do get the numbers before the connection, because I've done it, doesn't really convert well. I have videos with 500,000 views, and I have some, like the other day, with over 20,000 views, but they were empty views, versus a video that was such a horrible performing video for my channel, only 1,000 views. But those 1,000 views, they were views with depth. The math on which one builds a business, it isn't even close. Views without depth, it's just noise. And depth without strategy, you're invisible. But depth with strategy, craft with a genuine perspective, that's when you stop feeding the algorithm and start genuinely building something that nobody else can take from you. That is real attention. And it starts with going back to the thing that made you want to do this in the first place. Not the number, the reason.